Let's look at how to draw some different graphs. First one is average fixed cost. Remember that average fixed cost is the amount of fixed cost that's associated with the typical unit of output. The formula for average fixed cost then is just the fixed cost divided by the quantity. And because fixed cost is always going to be the same by definition, and the quantity is going to get larger and larger by definition, then the average fixed cost will constantly decrease over the course of a graph or as we produce more. Remember when we are asked to explain these things, they will explain the shape of the average fixed cost curve. We would say as the quantity increases, the average fixed cost is decreasing. For average variable cost, again, similar to average fixed cost, it's just the amount or the amount of variable cost that's associated with the typical unit of output. So like all averages, the formula will be the same. Variable cost divided by quantity. Because of the process of, or the law of diminishing marginal returns, we first have, in many cases, increasing returns and then decreasing returns. So the average variable cost curve tends to look somewhat like this. It decreases at first, and then as we produce more, it eventually starts to rise. So we would have increasing efficiency and then decreasing marginal returns. The average total cost curve is U-shaped. That's because it's the combination of the average fixed and the average variable cost curve. So average total cost initially is high because we have a very high fixed cost. Imagine building a factory to produce just one unit of output. So they build an entire car factory and make one car. Well, the amount of fixed costs associated with that single car would be pretty high. But suppose instead that they built the factory and they produced 1,000,000 cars. Well, then the average fixed cost is going to be a lot lower because the fixed cost associated with that one car would be smaller. The problem is that the more cars we produce, the more we encounter the law of diminishing returns. So over time, average variable cost, as we saw in the previous graph, gets larger and larger. So here we have a very high average fixed cost. And on this side of the graph, we have very high average variable cost, even though average fixed cost is pretty small at that point. The middle point, which is kind of the optimum balance in between the two, is called efficient scale. And efficient scale basically means that the firm is the most efficient at this point, and it gets the lowest average total cost, or it gets the most output for the amount of input provided.